Oh my god, the Nitoku stocks are never gonna recover from this. My man is in the mud, in deep. The only thing below him are his own stocks. Good lord, what was that? Like, typically I have to, read the chapter and think about it. No, I don't need to think about this chapter. This man got one shot and officially has the most shameful performance. And keep in mind, Toa is a part of this gauntlet. Toa is the only one who can relate to Nitoku right now because he got one shot by Lo Long, but damn, this man's only W is against a worm member. A fodder tier worm member that got killed by Ryu. That's this man's only W. Anyways, let's go on with the chapter review and breakdown. Let's break this down, right? The chapter starts off with, of course, Toku saying, "Oh, Ohma, you've clearly demonstrated just how powerful you are. I'm going to go all out." And then we have the narration introducing Toku, of course, and showing the fact that he is a novelist. And even has a portion where there's a critic that calls the story that Toku said was his magnum opus. He basically says it's trash, bro. The disrespect for this character is honestly amazing at this point to witness. Like, I laughed at Julius when he was getting his ass handed to him against Agito, and I laughed at this too as well. Like, I'm not gonna lie there, this is funny. But he's taking his clothes off, getting ready, and almost like, hey look, I'm ready whenever you are. I'll go whenever you gotta go. But there's no timer yet because there's no general referee who's keeping track of the time. And so we transition over to where Joji, Liu, and Kureishi are. Kureishi is still tired, kinda recovering, and we hear Liu is like, hey look, Nitoku's Sambo is no joke. Like, if Ohma were to try to take Toku head on, he would have a bit of trouble. And that would be very much true. Because other than Toku being, of course, pretty good at the martial arts he does practice, Ohma is kind of in his fourth match at this point. And he's fresh off of his match against Kureishi. So yeah, not advisable, right? I could tell you that. But Joji also pitches in and he's like, oh yeah, Toku will probably go for grappling. Ohma probably try to stick to striking. And it's a matter of who can actually set the pace for the match. Again, true as well. But the thing that we later on find out that, well, Joji was wrong was that he predicts that, hey look, the fight might drag out a bit and things only really come to a conclusion towards the end of the fight. Kinda like with Jurata versus Agito sort of scenario. That's the same type of logic that we're hearing here. But the only difference is that Nitoku is trash and he's about to get one shot. And so, before all of that, because Liu and Toa are sort of listening to Joji and they're kind of impressed. Oh, he's able to read this far ahead. There's this, hype around Joji being built up because he's up next. He's the final boss of this gauntlet, clearly. But Joji then asks Kureishi, hey, can you just go up and be the referee and keep the time again? And Kureishi complains. He's like, come on, why don't you do it? And Joji won't do it. He gets his ass dragged up over there. But not before Nitoku takes off his fighting gear that he was wearing in the Purgatory versus the Kengan Association competition. He takes it off here. He's only wearing his shorts. And he says, have at you. And he says, I'll take everything that you can throw at me. Again, considering the fact that I've already spoiled what happens in this chapter, kind of funny when you think about it. But after they've taken their stances, Nitoku then realizes that, as expected, Ohma has taken a striking stance. So, Toku decides to go for a gamble here because he knows you can't really beat Ohma in a striking match, at least normally. And so he plans a counter. Look, for what it's worth, it might be a solid plan. The problem here is that he stakes everything on the counter that he will eventually get. And that's very important. This does put at least some context into him getting one shot because he went for a very risky move, high risk, high return move. But he failed to factor in how strong Ohma has gotten because he goes in, he goes for, he's charging at him, right? trying to go for a strike and gets absolutely destroyed. Like, he goes for a left hook, Ohma just gives a straight right punch straight to his chin, and my man is gone. You see, Kureishi is like, oh my lord. Liu, he can't believe it. He's like, I went high diff with this dude and he's trash now. And all we see is Toku start falling over. But of course, we then see him start charging at Ohma, and he actually manages to tackle him, pushes him back quite a fair distance as well, but he's knocked out at this point, so his momentum really just stops. He's not like Agito where he can fight for a long period of time on instinct, because Agito went through that Gu ritual. He's not like Agito. He's not like the 8th fang of Netmetsu though. No, 5th fang actually. And so, after his momentum stops, he falls down and it's over. Complete shock. From Liu, from Toa, everyone. Nitoku got one shot. Now, if you have Nitoku in the A tier, that should tell you where Ohma is, that after fighting people that are in high B to A tier themselves, he's able to one-shot another A tier. And of course, they start talking about Ohma's growth. So one of the reasons, again, giving Nitoku the benefit of the doubt, even though his performance is still, no matter how many caveats I put to this, remember, it doesn't matter, the results are he got one shot. But there's a lot of indication that Ohma has actually been getting stronger in these matches. So his match against Kureishi has given him an amp. A match against even Liu gave him an amp. Against Toa had an amp as well. On some Saiyan Zenkai boost. That is what Ohma is on right now. And I don't think Toku was ready for that. And that also factors in that Ohma wasn't going all out against his previous opponents. So this does show that he took Toku a lot more seriously to take him out early in the match. But that stings. Like, if I don't hear you crying, there are no Toku fans. Every Toku fan is crying right now, complaining right now. And I want to agree with y'all, but this was way more funnier for me, honestly. But with that, we see Joji now take stage, and he said he had a feeling it would come to this, sort of talking about Ohma's performance, and that he's also quite surprised. In fact, he said he's astonished, or Ohma is growing at an astonishingly fast speed, and he's surprised by that. But it's his turn. He's like, alright, I'll bring up the rear, it's my time now. And we get his introduction as one of the strongest, at least top 3 strongest karate practitioners in Japan. So Ohma sort of tells Joji to not hold back against him and to come, at him with everything that he's got. But we get a small little gag, and this one is very funny because Liu is like, hey look, he says I had a feeling it would come to this, but all of his predictions have been fails. He's been fumbling the predictions. And Toa is like, yeah, now that you mention it, his predictions are trash. And Kureishi's like, hey, that's just how it is, you gotta accept it, that's goofy Joji. Because Joji was the one that said, oh, this might actually wrap up towards the back end in this fight, and probably if you read back with the other fights, it has been this way. But yeah, that's Ohma versus Nitoku. That was the name of the chapter. What did I think? Look, it was entertaining at least, right? It gave me a good laugh. But it seems like we're going to be dealing with Joji versus Ohma for the next 2 chapters probably. Because as I was saying yesterday, I thought, okay, Joji's gonna come in at like chapter 300. That would make sense, as this big fight. But it seems like there might be a conclusion of his fight against Ohma in chapter 300. So we'll see what happens. I still think chapter 300 is going to be a huge milestone chapter. So I'll be happy to see what happens here. Bright side, we're getting Joji versus Ohma. Not so bright side, the dark side really. Toku got one shot in what is admittedly a huge gamble play by him, right? I think if he had taken a different route, which by the way, he didn't take that route, things would have been different. But from the critic who read his novels to call his novels trash, to him actually going down like an absolute jobber, to I expect this to not go over well with Nitoku fans. I really do think that anyone who actually likes Nitoku, I don't expect this to go over well. So yeah, that's what I thought. Solid chapter, had me entertained, but my lord, the disrespect to Toku is, honestly, it'll be something to be remembered. If he jobs a third time, bro, I'm done. I'm done.